Hey everyone, I know it's been a while, but I'm back. I went back to work over a month ago and it's been pretty difficult working on these videos. I've also had to rewrite the script like 3 times because I just wasn't content with how it would come out. You guys know I always want to make sure I put out quality content. But after these 2-3 weeks, it's done. So with all the information we have gotten from Age of Calamity, we are seeing that this is setting up for a potential great video game trilogy. The thought of this is making me very, very anxiously excited. I think that's the best way to describe it. That's a positive feeling, right? Actually excited? Whatever the case, like I said in my reaction and first thoughts video, this being confirmed as a prequel is a huge deal as we will be getting our first Zelda trilogy. And this is huge. Looking at all video games, there really hasn't been a trilogy since the Batman Arkham series, and that ended in 2015. And if you want to talk about more memorable or huge video game trilogies, there's Mass Effect, God of War, and who could forget Halo? No, I'm pretty sure I'm missing some great trilogies out there, but I think those are the big ones. Nintendo also has the Metroid Prime trilogy, but I think the internet has come to a consensus that what makes this a great trilogy is mostly the gameplay and not much the story, which is what we're going to be focusing more on in this video. Talking about Nintendo, there's also the Mother series, which I do believe has a more connected story. However, that was quite some time ago, and the third installment of the trilogy never made it out to the West. Thanks, Reggie. But Nintendo now has this golden opportunity of creating a trilogy so great that it will be remembered for years. A trilogy that will remind us just how great gaming is. One trilogy to rule them all. So what does Age of Calamity need to do to make it this great trilogy that I'm rambling about? Well, to figure that out, I think we must first see what makes a great trilogy. Like I mentioned before, Halo, God of War, Mass Effect, and the Batman Arkham games all had stories that transcended each individual game. We know that Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild 2 to some extent, do have that connected story that transcends all its games. So from the start, it's going in the right direction. Now, I believe this Zelda trilogy, which now that I think about it, what do you guys think this trilogy should be called? Hero of the Wild trilogy? New Era trilogy? Let me know in the comments what you think. For right now, I'll stick to Zelda trilogy. As I said before, I believe this Zelda trilogy has potential to surpass all these other trilogies. Remember, one trilogy to rule them all. Yeah, this is definitely foreshadowing to what's coming up. So to get more context of what makes a great trilogy, I ventured off into movie trilogies. Now, I am quite the movie enthusiast, or maybe I'm just a fanatic, or maybe those two are just the same thing. Whatever the case, I really like movies. However, as one person, that would just be my opinion. To fix this, I called upon the assistance of a member from my Discord named Big G. Now this guy knows his movies. He is oftentimes writing out and sharing his movie reviews with us, and is constantly giving us his analysis on movies. So if you like video games, discussion, and tournaments, sharing artwork, movies, and other Discord shenanigans, then this is a Discord for you. The link is in the description, so yeah, see you there. So with the discussion that Big G and I had, we came to the conclusion that a great trilogy has character growth, a setup for the next installment, and a connected world. In my opinion, the trilogies that show this the best are Planet of the Apes, The Dark Knight, Back to the Future, and the original Star Wars trilogy. But my favorite trilogy, and in my opinion the best trilogy out there, which you guys might have already guessed with my one trilogy to rule them all comment, is The Lord of the Rings. In this trilogy, we see plenty of character growth, both positive and negative, from many of the cast. It does an excellent job of setting up an environment and mood for the upcoming installment, and it also does a great job of creating a world that feels alive and is connected through all 3 movies. So the question is, does the Zelda trilogy have the potential to be the video game equivalent of The Lord of the Rings? Well, first off, character development. Although a tragedy, I love the fact that Link is pretty much defeated by Calamity Ganon. Although the defeated hero is a trope used in several stories, the way it is implemented in Breath of the Wild and potentially in Age of Calamity, it demonstrates the tenacity that Link truly has. We also need to keep in mind that during the events of Breath of the Wild, Link is not in possession of the Triforce of Courage. So this is a great setup for Breath of the Wild 2, where Link could potentially obtain the Triforce of Courage to be the true hero of legend that wields the Blade of Evil's Bane. Looking at the trailers and gameplay from all 3 games, the Zelda we see in each of them seem quite different. In Age of Calamity, we are seeing a Zelda fighting alongside Link and working towards awakening her magical powers. In Breath of the Wild, although absent throughout most of the game, she emerges at the end fully aware of her magical capabilities and how to use them against the Great Calamity. In the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, we see a drastic change in style. Now I know that a change of hairstyle is not in any way character growth, but I've had several female friends change up their hairstyle drastically when a big life event happens, or they feel like they've changed as a person. So this makes me excited to know what drove Zelda to rock that short hairstyle. Now we do know quite a bit of how she changed as a person with the memory scene in Breath of the Wild. But like I just mentioned, I believe there's a lot more going to happen in Breath of the Wild 2, so that just makes things much more interesting. Next on the list on what makes a great trilogy is the setup into the next installment. Now this is where things can either go very well or they can go bad. We know that Age of Calamity is going to end on a somber note with Link being rushed off into the Resurrection Chamber, or something similar to that. We know that the setup is there to Breath of the Wild. However, at the end of Breath of the Wild, we really didn't get a sense that there was going to be a Breath of the Wild 2. Yes, Zelda and Link ventured off into Hyrule to try and rebuild it, but even Zelda herself said that Ganon was gone for now. So how can a setup be established for Breath of the Wild 2? Well, a small detail needs to be addressed in Age of Calamity for this to happen. There has to be some mention of Ganondorf. It could be something cryptic like, "Hidden deep underneath the kingdom, it is rumored that the vessel that once housed the Calamity lays dormant." Or they can just flat out and say, "Yo, Ganondorf was like the evilest guy out there and he sacrificed his human form to become Calamity Ganon." But get this, guys. They say his bodily remains were kept hidden in a comatose state somewhere underneath the kingdom. If this is somewhat mentioned throughout Age of Calamity, then boom, instant best video game trilogy. This would put it on par with the story that is told in The Lord of the Rings. From the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, we are made aware of the evil that was the ring/Sauron and what needs to be done to combat this evil. This evil looms throughout the entirety of the 3 movies and is finally dealt with at the final moments of the last movie. If we are made aware of the existence of Ganondorf since the Age of Calamity, as a player we know of the threat that sleeps underneath Hyrule. This would be a great final battle that we were made aware of since the first installment of the trilogy. And to add even more setup, I had previously mentioned that we could potentially see Link obtain the Triforce of Courage in Breath of the Wild 2, since it wasn't present with him in Breath of the Wild. Again, if the Triforce is mentioned in Age of Calamity, it is just one more thing that we're expecting to show up in Breath of the Wild 2. And finally, on the list of what makes a great trilogy, a connected world. Which, do I even need to say anything? Again, like Lord of the Rings, the Zelda universe has plenty of history and lore that this feel of connectedness just comes naturally with all the different races, clans, and reoccurring characters. I'm looking at you, Beetle.
Thank you!
And just seeing how all these events are leading right into another, well, I think there is no argument there on how connected this story and world is. And that is why I say that this trilogy is the one that will rule them all. When I first saw this trailer, this idea came to mind, and as I started thinking more about it, I just realized how much of a big deal this was. It was great writing this out and sharing my thoughts with you, so let me know what you guys think. Does it really hold that much potential to be a great trilogy? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, you could subscribe. That'd be cool. But in all seriousness, thank you guys for the support. I know I haven't been putting out my weekly uploads, but I just wanted to make sure you guys get the best possible content. Thank you all for the support. You guys are awesome. I'm Ace Monkey. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.